Okay, welcome back. We're going to be having Mr. Minja. I think we had a cutout, so we're going to actually join him back again. So sorry about that. Okay, okay, so sorry about that. Okay, he's joined us now. Okay, so sorry, sir. I think there was a problem with, so I'm going to add you up now. Okay.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
a technical
no,
problem.
no worries. I totally understand. So we have some infrastructure and telephony challenges sometimes over there, which I'm hoping that we can definitely resolve soon at some point and invest in our infrastructure so we can continue to have these conversations uninterrupted. But as I was saying, this is a pretty fascinating topic for me, and again, thanks for having me on. For the youth out there, it really begins with your mindset. So just to give a little bit of a backstory. I'm originally from Gambia, a small country in West Africa, which most of you guys are familiar with probably. My family did pretty well, but then there was a coup that happened in '94, and we were forced into exile. So I've been in here in the US for the last 23 years. And I feel like my mindset was really already formed as a kid growing up. And because of that mindset of sort of who we were, where we came from, it really kind of helped set me up for success because when we left for the US and left everything behind, I never got really discouraged because my mindset was already sort of made to try to persevere and try to keep going and be persistent and not really give up at all. If I didn't have that mindset, I probably would have given up because we came to the US with nothing. And, it took a long time to really try to find myself, find my way, and have some success. But if my mindset was negative, if my mindset was the fact that I was going to give up or not really persevere, then I would not have been able to end up working at Apple or finding the mentor group and doing other things or writing a book, etc. So your mindset is super important. And to change your mindset is how you change your life. So for me, um, changing my mindset meant going to the libraries and reading books and looking at people that I admired and respected and seeing how they did what they did, how they became successful, right? And reading books and doing interviews and talking to people to kind of change my mindset. I hear a lot of youth that reach out to me on Instagram and they reach out for help or they need some assistance financially or what have you. And what they say is like, hey, Momar, I don't really have a way of doing anything or I can't really do anything. And I push people and I challenge them to try to change their mindset. You have to have the mindset of being able to be successful. You have to have a mindset of being resourceful and being able to do something no matter what your circumstances are. You don't have to wait until you have it all together to try to start a business or try to help volunteer, or try to help your communities, right? It doesn't take money to do all these things, right? For you to maybe go and have a conversation with someone that you admire and that you respect in your community and say, hey, I'd love to learn from you. What can I learn? How can I help you? Is there any opportunity you can have that I can kind of help explore and stuff like that? But what I'm trying to say is your mindset is super important for your success because if you have a mindset of failure, if you have a mindset of defeat before you even get started, right, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to change your mindset. For me, what worked for me is changing my mindset, exposing my mind to different things by reading, by talking to people, by observing, right, to really try to figure out what it is I need to do from where I started to where I am today. So I'll go and turn it over to you for maybe additional questions that your folks might have, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask him a few questions, and then a few questions are actually going to be uh, now, how did you come to realize, how did you come to realize this your potential? Because I believe there are a lot of young people in Africa right now who believe that we do not have what it takes to even become the best. We don't have what it takes. We don't have what it takes to become the best because of we have like a standard, and the standard is like, oh, okay, in the Europe in Asia they are way better than us. So how are you able to actually fight against those things?
Yeah, so for me, to be fully transparent, I feel like people saw my potential even before I saw it myself. As a kid, um, coming here, as a young man, I'll say, people saw something in me that I didn't even quite see in myself. And what I mean by that is people gave me job opportunities. I was willing to work really hard, but they were like, "Hey, I see you as a leader someday, or I see you as a businessman someday, or I see you doing well over time." And quite frankly, I was struggling, right? And I didn't see what they saw in me because, as far as I was concerned, I did have some insecurities as a youth, right? And I think we all kind of go through that stage where I feel like I didn't really have all the different things that other people had to be successful, right? And to give a little bit more background, so when I moved to the US, when I was exiled over here, all the money that my family had didn't even matter anymore because that was not available to me anymore. I lived in the shadows, which basically means that I was an undocumented immigrant for a while. I didn't have any paperwork. I didn't do anything. I didn't have any money, no friends or anything, right? So it's like starting from that. But what people saw was my determination to try to succeed. What people saw was my willingness to work hard. What people saw was my willingness to raise my hand and say, hey, I'll work late. I'll come in early, right? I will work extra hard. I will help my additional employees or fellow coworkers if they need some help. I'll work on the weekends, you know. I'll work on the holidays if it doesn't matter if it's Christmas, New Year, Christmas Eve, right? I'll work that extra double shift, right? So again, I didn't have a lot of confidence at the time, but what people saw was hard work and dedication, and honestly, that is really what helped me a lot in terms of being able to set me up on this path because what people would say, they were like, oh my God, I see you being successful someday. I didn't really see how I was going to do it. But what people saw in me was that grit, that determination, right? And that drive to really try to push ahead. And for the youth, I would say, make sure that you're putting in the extra work, that you're putting in the time. Make sure that you're not giving up, that you're working extra late, that you're putting in, the time super early if you have to, and all these other things because people will see that. And when people see that, they'll give you more and more responsibility. It's going to help boost your confidence, right? It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have the same situation or circumstances as everyone else has, but look to see areas that you can shine in, right? And show your work. Don't just talk about it. Like show what you could do. Here's a perfect example. There was a young youth that reached out to me. He said he wanted to become like an Instagram influencer and stuff because he did artwork, right? But on his post, he didn't have any of his artwork displayed, right? So not even one. I'm like, you have to put yourself out there so people can discover you, right? You have to really be out there, like get out of your comfort zone, try to do something different, so people will kind of notice it. You have to have confidence in yourself, right? You have to have confidence. It's really easy to say, it's really, really hard to do when you look at your circumstances and you don't have the right resources, you don't have money, or maybe you're just struggling to pay your bills, right? Especially over there. I know there's a lot of people that, have a very difficult time, but figure out what it is that you can do, put yourself out there, create a product, create a service so people can experience it. I see some kids that are creating electronics from like scrappy parts and stuff like that, right? And if they don't put themselves out there, the world wouldn't really know about you, right? There's a difference between existence and discovery, so you have to make yourself discoverable. If you're good at, soccer, right, go out there and play. Maybe have some of your friends like showcase some of your talent, right? And that video can be shared. It might go viral. If you know how to create things with your hands, like artwork and crafts or whatever it is, like use your tools, use your hands, create it, but also use platforms like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube so you can become discoverable, right? And as most people respond to your stuff that they see, it's going to help boost your confidence. And you'll be able to see, oh, I'm really good at this stuff. I'm really good at soccer. I'm really, really good at art. I'm really, really good at creating things. And that's how you get boost your confidence over time. So it takes some time. It's a process, but put yourself out there and you'll thrive. You'll do well.
Wow, wow, wow. Thanks so much, sir. Okay, now the other question which I would like to ask is, if you could travel, if you could time, you could time travel to the day of your startup and have 15 minutes with your former self to communicate any lessons you have acquired with the intentions of saving yourself mistakes and heart, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, great question. I would say actually do it sooner. Don't wait. Don't wait. Do it now is the key message I want to say. We've done well as a company, but I would only imagine what things would have been like if we had started like 5 years before or 10 years before, right? Or 15 years before. Um, we all get caught up in this perfection cycle of trying to wait until things are perfect before we start a business, for example, right? You're thinking about an idea, you're thinking about, something to do, a product or a service, right? And people say, oh, you need a business plan, or you need to wait on financing. You go to the bank, they don't really give you the loan. You don't have really money. Like, what do you do to get started, right? So I would say to myself, start sooner, don't really wait, because the sooner that you start, the better off you are. All the assumptions that you have, a lot of them are going to be wrong anyway, right? So the sooner that you start, the better off you are, because it's about a learning process. Don't wait until it's perfect. An analogy that I use is, let's say an artist, in a studio that has basically been writing all these songs and lyrics for a long time, but it never really went into the studio to actually hear themselves sing, or really like put down the track, as they say, right? Don't wait on your business. Try to get out ahead of it. You're going to learn so much, and you're going to pivot. The assumptions that you had are going to be wrong. You're going to learn a lot from your customers. Put yourself out there, put your products and services out there, right? And learn and iterate over time, because it gives you a competitive advantage. A person that's been in business for, let's say, even a year or even 6 months, right, is way ahead from someone that is just thinking about starting, because you learn so much about the marketplace. All of your different ideas that you think is going to be correct, or it's going to be right, or what you think people are going to want, may be completely different. And the best way to really find that out is actually put yourself out there. Like I said, we've done okay, but if I were to tell myself, 15, like, have a conversation with myself, it would be to start earlier, because we've learned so much over the last few years. But I only imagine what we would have done if we had started much sooner. So to the youth out there, if you have a product, if you have an idea, don't wait. Start right away. You're going to change, you're going to adapt, you're going to learn, but just keep going.
Wow. Okay, so I believe that I think this is one of the questions every young Africans usually ask. Even they ask this kind of question. So the question is this: you had an opportunity to travel to another nation that had a better opportunity than we in Africa. So now they say, oh, you are lucky, you had a good system. So the question is, if you have found yourself grew up in Africa, would you have been able to have come this far with the setback we have in Africa, or would you say that you were able to build come this far because of you were in another nation, or because of you actually giving your best, even when you had a good system?
Yeah, so I may be a little bit biased on this, but Africa is a phenomenal place to grow up. We are like a continent of culture, of respect, a continent of values, right? So that was a huge advantage for me, actually, coming to the US, because I felt like there were so many different distractions and temptations, and paths that I could have taken that were different, and my life could have been completely different from where it is today. So the fact that I grew up in Africa was a huge advantage for me. The fact that I grew up around, family and friends that taught me the values like teamwork and respect and integrity and all these other things, right? So to the youth out there that are growing up in Africa, don't look at Africa as a place that has a disadvantage over Europe and other things.
Mm.
Yes, Europe, the US, the East, the West has certain things that Africa doesn't have, but we also have a lot of things that they don't have here as well, that you should truly, truly cherish and value, right? The grass is always greener on the other side, as they say. So don't be in Africa looking for, like a greener pasture in the West. Try to figure out what it is that you could do right then and right there. Look for what Africa has to offer you, and don't wait. And a lot of people do this, by the way, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to put my life on hold. I'm not going to look to do anything here because there's nothing in Africa. I'm going to wait until I get to Europe. Then I'm going to start putting myself together. No, don't wait. Start putting yourself together right there. Look around. Africa has a lot of beautiful things that other people don't have, that they value, that they cherish, right? So that was a huge advantage. The other thing I was going to say is tap into the opportunities already there. So that way, when you come here, you could be resourceful, right? Again, people do this. They wait until they get here, then they get started, and then they realize, wait a minute, that when you come here, people just don't hand you stuff, right? That all the stuff that you see on TV is somewhat, perception more than reality, right? For example, for me, before I got here, it's like, okay, I watched MTV, I watched all the movies and stuff, and when I got here, it was a reality check. It was different when I was here on vacation, but when I got here because of exile, it's like, oh my God, like I gotta work, right? There's no money. I gotta get up and try to do something. Right? There was no MTV crib for me to go to. Like I never saw. It wasn't really real to a certain point, right? So my message to the African youth is don't wait, look for what Africa has to offer you, right? And we need to be at a point right now, hopefully, where I feel like every single person there sees themselves as having a future in Africa and capitalizing on what we have to offer instead of even coming overseas to Europe and stuff because we need you guys in Africa. We need you to be doctors and engineers and lawyers, and we need you to make a huge contribution to the society. I know there's some challenges there, right? And my job as part of chairman of the Mentor Group and creating these companies and investing is to make it such a way that every African youth kind of sees a future for them, a bright future where they can have a job and sustain and take care of themselves and their family, right? And they don't have to go to Europe because let's face it, if you haven't read the book Shadows of Exile, it's about this young African prince that grew up in a very wealthy family. Something tragic happens and he's exiled to the US, right? He goes from being an heir to a nameless immigrant. And he makes this treacherous journey across the oceans, if you will. And I cover this migrant journey of going from Africa to Europe and then to the US eventually. And it's a journey that's filled with pain. It's a journey that's filled with death. It's a journey that's filled with a lot of like obstacles and challenges that people don't even realize. So again, it's not just the fact that the grass is greener here. Look within Africa. We have a lot of challenges there, but think of those challenges as opportunities. Again, don't wait till you get here. Look for a business you can start. Look for opportunities. There are opportunities in energy, in education, in infrastructure, in telephony, and internet. Like there are so many problems that we could tackle, and you can create businesses there right in Africa. You don't have to go to Europe or the West to really try to start something. Do it while you're there. When you get started and you get to the US eventually, or wherever you're going, you're going to thrive. So for example, if you are a person that's good at, let's say art, for example, I'll just keep it very basic. Uh, Learn to hone your skills in Africa. Start practicing. Build a following while you're there. Build an audience. When you get over here and you have more tools, all that's really going to do is help elevate your stuff or magnify you. But don't wait till you before you get started. Take advantage of Africa. We have a lot of things to offer the youth there, and get started on it right away.
Wow, wow, wow. Thanks so much. Okay, so the other question is this. Africans by nature we're somewhat religious, so sometimes we have a problem with politics, and especially the imperialist politics, and then capitalism politics, and religion itself, and it's somehow like it's restraining development. It's actually difficult development. So now, sometimes even the Western people think that we are religious, too religious, so it is actually stopping us from being developed. And I don't know if you're religious, but how has your faith influenced your mindset? And how has it made you become better persons? And if it has actually, do you think that your faith has an influence in your success today?
It really does, for sure. There's no doubt about it. Because, for me, growing up as a young, privileged kid, I feel like we had everything, right? My family had money, we had prestige, we had wealth and status and all this other stuff, right? But frankly, it wasn't really until we lost everything
Mm,
that I had to really embrace my faith because everything that I had was gone. The money was gone, the prestige was gone, the name recognition was gone. I had nothing else but my faith,
mm,
right? Because sometimes when you have everything, you don't really realize how important faith is because you're doing well. You never have to worry about money. You never have to worry about how you're going to pay the next bill, etc. So you can get caught up in that stuff, right? What do you need faith for if you have money, if you have friends, if you have
mm,
recognition, if you have prestige, right? All the finer things in life. But what happened with us and me specifically is all that really got stripped away, and the money was gone, the recognition was gone, the environment was gone. I found myself somewhere completely different, and I had nothing else to rely on. No friends, no family, nothing. All I could really do was relying on my faith actually to kind of keep me going through the difficult times. And it was super instrumental on making sure it felt like I lost everything, but in some ways I had, you know, God with me the whole time to kind of keep me going, right? So during the times of extremely difficult circumstances, when I was out there, catching the bus for 3 hours to go to work, or out in the snow, or out in 100-degree temperatures, I never really felt alone. I felt like something was
mm.
always there, cheering me on and keeping me going. And it took losing everything for me to really embrace my faith and really recognize how important that was for my success. And that's what kept me going. And I try to keep, grounded and not really lose sight of that. Because at the end of the day, I think the more success you have, sometimes the less you are to think that you're going to need, faith because you have everything else. But it's something that I tell people to be very conscious about because at the end of the day, all that stuff can be taken away from you. And what are you going to be left with? So I think faith is super important. It was a critical factor of my success, and it still is.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much. So I think we have about three more questions and then we'll be good. And so the other question is this: what habits helped you to get this far? What habits helped you to get this far? What habits were you cultivating during your journey?
There were several habits. Something that comes to mind is just pure drive, like ambition, hunger. You know,
Hmm.
I was hungry. I wanted it badly enough, maybe more than most people. Um, I didn't go to Apple or, go to Stanford for a year and a half and stuff because I was the smartest person, just to be fully transparent. But I was willing to work harder than anybody else out there. I wanted it badly enough, right? And that was something that I feel like served me really, really well. Because sometimes, I mean, we're not all born with certain talents. I don't have like the highest IQ in the world, etc., right? But again, going back to the drive, the ambition, and the hunger that people saw, right? That's what really kept me going. That's a huge, huge factor of my success. And I would love to see more of that in today's youth, actually, is that drive and hunger. The willingness to really work hard at something, right? Because these
Hmm.
days, this is, during my time, we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and all these other things, which can be great platforms sometimes, but it can be also great distractions. So if you're not good at basketball, for example, right? What I hear these days the youth do is just say, "Oh, I'm not really good at basketball," and then they try to move on to the next thing. If I'm not good at baseball, I'm not really good at it, or whatever. But you have to have the discipline and you need to be willing to put in the hard work to really learn it, right? And I tell kids, like, you're not, no one's, Michael Jordan, wasn't born a natural star. Right? You have to really put in the hard work to do it. And you have to rehearse and you have to practice and you have to put in the extra hard work until you get better at something, right? And this is where I feel like a lot of people give up on is they say, "Oh, I'm not good at baseball." I'm like, "Have you ever played baseball before?" "I've only played a few times." No. Go in there and learn. Go to the gym, go to the court, like practice every single day until you get good at it and practice until you get great at it, right? It's that sheer ambition, drive, just keep going. That's what worked for me. And people will see this stuff, by the way, right? If you're someone that's hungry, that has drive, that's asking all the right questions, that willing to put in extra time to make a sacrifice, people are going to see that in you, right? They'll give you more responsibilities. If you're not looking for jobs, they'll give you more job offers. If you're looking for promotion, they'll give you that. Because a lot of times, people are very comfortable with where they are. They're not willing to put in the extra
Hmm.
mile, right? So for me, how I got promoted, how I got job opportunities, right, was that just drive, hard work, and willingness to put in the time. So I worked for example, for 8 hours, and I would stay like another 8 or 10 hours just to learn about the new role or the new system, right? And people just worked their 8 hours and they would go home. Like I stayed, right? I stayed on campus. I literally knew every single security person that was there working in the building, right? I knew every single janitor that was there because they saw me when they got up the first thing in the morning. Like you can't really like replace this stuff, right? You have to put in the hard work. These days,
Hmm.
it's a struggle to get people to even read a book. Imagine
Hmm.
if you're not serious about reading a book and spending maybe 15 minutes a day of your time to help dedicate changing your mindset or helping you read and learn about a trade or studying your industry. If you're not willing to put in 15 minutes per day of the 24 hours that we have, like how serious are you about success, right? It's hard,
Hmm.
hard work, right? It always looks easier than what it really is, but just have the determination to really put in the drive and you'll do fine over time.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, sir. So the question is, you wrote a book, The Shadow of Excel, and uh, 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 the question is, what inspired you to write the book, and then what in two or three words, in two sentences or three sentences, what would you tell people of the book, and what inspired you, and what would you want people to actually know?
Yeah, great question. So, Shadows of Exile is it's inspired by a true story, by my journey. As I mentioned, growing up overseas and coming from wealth and then losing it all after the military coup. So, I was busy like everyone else chasing the American dream, if you will, right? I got here with nothing, and like most people, I've been trying to build a career and do businesses and create wealth and do it for myself and family, etc. But I never really had the time to really reflect on my personal journey, actually. I just kind of kept going, right? So what happened is I was recovering from back surgery for a couple of months, which for the first time gave me some time to reflect on my personal journey. And I thought about how far I had come, right? Going from nothing here to ending up at Apple and having some success in business, etc. And reflecting on that journey. And the reason why is because I didn't have to go to work anymore. I was off for a couple of months. And I wasn't really, like busy, caught up with other things that people do on a daily basis. I had some time to really think and reflect. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've done okay for myself, right? What if there's someone out there like me that comes from Africa or Europe or wherever, and maybe has gone through a similar journey, right? Or maybe they're in Africa and thinking of this journey to the US or Europe. What if they are thinking about making that, very, very dreadful migrant trip across? Do they really know what the experience is going to be like? And what is it like? So anyway, I had some time to reflect on myself. And what I said to myself is like, you know what, because this story has haunted me for a long time. It is worth putting the personal story out there to help inspire people and to help also humanize the immigrant experience as well, because I didn't really see much of that told, right? And I didn't see a lot of our history kind of told as well. So the book was written in part to humanize the immigrant experience, for one, to educate people about, certain things about Africa, including like Mansa Musa, African history stuff, which I didn't feel like people were really much aware of, right? But also thinking about those kids that might be out in Africa and other parts of the world that are thinking about making these immigrant journeys across to Europe or wherever, to really educate them on what that really process is and how difficult it can be sometimes, and how really like critical it is for you to think through exactly what it is that you're doing. And what I said to myself is that if one person reads the book and finds inspiration in it and finds hope in it and finds success some kind of way, or at least is able to relate to the journey based on my experiences, then it's success for me. And it was very well received. The book's been done pretty well. Right before COVID, we were in talks to try to hopefully turn it into a movie, so hopefully we can resume that at any point. And it just kind of took off a life of its own. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, please do. It's on my profile, but amazing, amazing story. You'll see yourself in it a lot because it's like it starts in Africa and then up here, but the sights and sounds, the costumes, the way that we speak, all that stuff is really channeled in the book. It has a little bit of everything. Good times, hard times, some funny points here and there. But if you're from Africa, you'll definitely be able to see yourself in the book. It's very, very, it has a coming to America feel to it, but more from an immigrant perspective. Definitely encourage you guys to check it out. Three words that come to mind: it's riveting, it's thrilling, and it's shocking, to be honest with you. So definitely worth checking out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so the last but not the least, okay, the last but not the, so it says, when is the right time to start empowering others? You've come this far, and a lot of people say, I don't have money yet to start empowering people. So like I'm young and I haven't got anything. And I'm like, okay, I have an excuse that, oh, I haven't done anything. So I think I should just wait till I have everything before I can actually start empowering people. So the young ladies, when is the right time for us to start empowering other people?
The right time to start empowering people or other people is right now. Better yet,
Wow.
it's yesterday. I would even go as far as to say it's yesterday. Listen, I struggle with this myself, right? And one of my mentors said something to me that resonates with me even to this day. He's like, Mo, don't wait till you get to the highest floor before you send the elevator back down. And what he meant by that is you don't have to wait until you get to a certain level to reach out and empower other people.
Hmm.
Empowerment comes in different forms, right? And somehow, as a society, we've kind of lost track of that. And we are under the impression or notion that you have to wait until you're successful before you start doing things or empowering things. And I completely reject that notion. Start now, start today, figure out what it is that you can do to empower people. And because it comes in different forms, like I said, volunteering at a nonprofit, for example, is a way of empowering people. It doesn't take
Mm.
any money for that, right? Sharing a post that you find inspiring, right,
Mm.
doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah.
Mobilizing a community that centers around things like feeding the homeless or providing better health care, organizing like a youth conference, a soccer game, etc., doesn't cost any money, right?
Mm.
These are something that you can get a lot of value from, that your community can value, right? And it doesn't take any money to start. People ask me all the time. They hit me up on Instagram. Oh, I don't have any money to get started. I want to do this. I want to do that. Not everything that you want to do costs money. In fact, I would
Mm.
almost say that most of the things that you want to do that can really make a big difference in society doesn't cost anything at all. If you think about it, it's just a change in mindset. Don't wait. Do it right now. There's a lot of things that you could do. It doesn't cost anything. Put yourself out there. It doesn't cost anything to reach out to someone that you respect in your community and say, hey, I'd love to learn from you. I respect what you've done. Help me, or organize a community event. Right? We're in a crisis right now with COVID-19. Volunteer people, volunteer, maybe host an event, educate people about safety, especially in Africa, right? About social distancing, about wearing masks. Maybe go to some of the hospitals and then try to figure out what their needs are, right? Go to some of your business community and business leaders, go to your governor, your mayors, etc., and say, hey, I had a chance to meet with so and so this hospital. They really need a blankets or a mask or whatever. It doesn't cost you any money, right? And what this does is it gives you visibility. It gives you it makes you like a prominent figure in your community, and people will see that in you. And it's not about the money per se, but you're starting something. And once you do that and you have the connections and you have the name recognition, you're most likely to succeed, or people are most likely to kind of sponsor you. So if you organize these events, it doesn't cost any money. If you share information that's valuable, if you're making a contribution towards your society, you're most likely to succeed or be recognized or given opportunities as they open up. So again, just to recap, the best time to do it is right now. Don't wait for anything. Just keep going at
Wow.
it.
I think that's the short advice. Okay, so
Definitely.
uh, I think we're gonna have a last question now. And I saw a question, and I think it's related to a question that you want to ask, but I'm just gonna ask it so that they would actually feel better that okay, your question was answered. So the question is this: how are you able to deal with your failures? And at any point did you feel like giving up? And how did you actually overcome it? Because I believe for me, I've always gone through that. So I believe a lot of people here do something and they're like, "Ah, how did you do it? It's not easy. How do you go? How do you do it?"
Yeah, so it's a great question. I never really there were some times that it was really difficult, to be honest with you. It was very challenging. But my mindset was already made before I even embarked on the journey, which is why, to circle back to the topic of this conversation, is really critical, is your mindset is even important. Like failure and giving up was never an option for me, even before I embarked on the journey, right? So you need to make your mindset, you have to have the mindset of no matter what it is that you're going through, you're never going to give up. You're going to keep going, right? And if you don't have that mindset before you get started, it's easy to give up. But for me personally, it was like, you know what? My family depends on me because I was the first one here, right? There was no other option. I had no choice but to be successful. Giving up was never an option. There were many, many times that, yes, things were extremely difficult, but the mindset was already made. Like, no matter what temperature it was, no matter what the situation was, whether I was hungry, whether I was homeless, whether I had a car, whether I had to walk, whether I had to walk in the snow, rain, sleep, it didn't really matter. Like, that mindset is kind of what kept me going. And for you guys out there, for the youth, what I would say is shape your mindset, be determined, and make sure that you stick with your guns and that you completely see it through before you even go into stuff, because it's gonna get tough. There's gonna be times that you're gonna be out there, you're gonna struggle, you're gonna be applying for jobs, you're not gonna find a job, you're gonna have a job if you're lucky, you're gonna get fired, you're gonna have ups and downs, but
Mm.
the key thing is just have a mindset, prepare for the worst, right? Be optimistic, but just keep going no matter what. Like for me, that's what served me well, is just having that mindset, no matter how difficult things were going to be, ups and downs. It was already sort of made. I was going to basically like go through, under, above, whatever circumstances were to keep going, and that's what I did. And I still continue to do, right? I mean, you never keep going, right? You never stop. You just have to keep going. I still have challenges, believe it or not. Everyone does. It's just different levels of it. The format that they come in is very, very different, but you just have to have the persistence and drive to just keep going and just never really give up. And just tell yourself like that's not even an option. You have to keep going no matter how difficult it is, and you'll do fine over time.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to be rounding up very soon. And then the last question is this. I'm in Africa, you're also in the US. And now, what advice would you give to young people? What would you advise them? You've come this far in your life, you've experienced all of things. And I believe there's something in your heart always. In every leader, there's always something in your heart to let the younger generation know about. What do you want us to know about that you have discovered so far in life?
What I've discovered after being here for over 23 plus years, and obviously growing up in Africa, is the change that you seek is within, begins with inside of you, right? What I hear a lot of people say from an African perspective is, oh, the government this, or the leaders this, or the politicians. Like, there's always some external reference about who it is that we're waiting for to fix our problems, right?
Wow.
And what I encourage people to do, what I've learned is the change begins from within. For me, my life changed around when I realized that I was the one that was going to have to turn things around for me, for myself. Not the government, not who was running for office, not who was the mayor, nothing else, no one else, right? It's like, it's you. Ultimately, the person that you see in the mirror, that's the person that's going to change your life. It's always easy to point a finger at something else or someone else. And it's always easy to say, oh, Africa is corrupt, or Africa is this, or things are just the way that they are, or the government is. Trust me, I have this conversation with people all the time. But the question that you should ask yourself is, what are you going to do about it? How are you solving the issue, right? We can't just if everyone has nothing to say but just complain on problems, Africa is never going to get fixed, right? But if everyone steps up and recognizes that they're the ones that's going to lead the change and drive the change to where we can shape Africa that we want, right? And everyone sees that same opportunity in themselves, we're going to make a lot of progress, right? So it's not about the government. It's not about the corruption. It's not about how things are. It's about you, the person that you see in the mirror, and what is that you're doing to solve the issues, right? To solve the problems. Yes, the government may and may not do things that they're supposed to do, right? But think of what it is that you can do. Be focused on solutions, not problems, right? Be focused on trying to bring people together to rally and solve issues that we have, and not just sit up behind the desk or computer or phone these days and just complain. You could do something, start now, don't worry about what other people are doing, you know, make a contribution, solve an issue, raise your hand, volunteer, take leadership, and you'll do fine.
Wow. Thanks so much, sir. Thanks so much. I would want to say thank you to Mr. Moman. Let's say thank you. Let's say thank you. Let's just say it out. Let's stop here. I'm waiting for it before let's just say thank you. Let's say thank you. I'm waiting for it. Thank you.
I
Thanks
really
so much. I'm
appreciate
waiting.
you guys.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't go to say thank you. It will not go to you. I see a lot of thank you right now. So I'm waiting to say thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks
much.
for
And I
having
believe
me. And you know, just to close, really appreciate you having me on and also just facilitating a conversation like this. You know, and you know, I'm really proud of the fact that you're deciding to do something about it, right? You're using Instagram as a platform to have conversations with people like myself and other leaders in the community where we can talk about these things, but most importantly, we can do something about it, right? It's a beautiful thing. You could have sat in there and not done anything. You could have maybe done other things with the platform that you have, or maybe not even do anything at all. You could have sat there and complained about how things are bad or what have you, but you've decided to do something, right? And this is how change starts. And collectively, if we begin to figure out what it is that we could do, right, as a continent overall, we'll make huge strides. I'm very optimistic about Africa. I'm very optimistic about the progress that we've made. Keep it up, keep going, and we can all create a better Africa for everyone. So thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
thank you so much. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
appreciate it.
Okay, so
See
we're
you
going to
guys.
excuse it now. Thanks so
Take care.
much.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye. Yes. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining. I'm very grateful. I want to say thank you to Mr. Moman. Thanks so much for inspiring young people right now. And so, thank you very much for joining. I want to say thank you to everyone. I can't mention everybody's name, but let me just say thank you. Thanks so much for joining. I hope that we would all develop an empowerment mindset to make our life better. And this is what I can remember very well. Is it the right time to start developing other people? It is now. So don't wait till you're old. Don't wait till you're small. Don't wait till everything is over. It is now. Okay, so next week we're going to have another section. You can follow me up and then we can get more tips on how to become better leaders for Africa. Thanks, guys.